Hello, I'm Mariana Capasso from Finder, a research project funded by the European Union that offers free open methodology, tools and training. And we offer a free course on fairness, accountability, transparency and ethics of AI-based human recommendation. And this video is a brief summary of our training course on the third module, which deals with ethics of discrimination. And in particular, it deals with the concept and taxonomy, so the different forms of different kind of discrimination, on what makes discrimination just or legitimate, and how and in which sense we can be discriminated by an algorithm. So a super famous example about Compass, so an algorithm widely used in American courts to make biased decisions. It was proven to be biased against blacks. So blacks was accused of high risk of reoffending when they were not actually. Or another example of how using algorithms as the basis for decision making may disadvantage one group relative to another. For example, algorithm using to allocate healthcare to people has been proved to be less likely to refer black patients to personalized healthcare programs than equally sick white patients. Or another example in recruitment, like the one that we had possibility to see last year for the Amazon CV screening system that was trained on biased historical data, so that prefer male in comparison to females. And all these examples from justice, healthcare, recruitment, they all show a lack of diversity in the data, and as an outcome they show that groups have been underrepresented in algorithms. So algorithm decision making might increase, for example, recruitment efficiency and quality, but also can lead to unfair treatment of certain groups. And for example, the AI Act proposal classified AI-driven systems designed to be used for recruitment as high-risk systems. Because this system can impact future career prospects and livelihoods of workers, and they may also perpetuate historical patterns of discrimination. But what is discrimination? This is the basic question that we will introduce in this course. What constitutes discrimination is not often unclear and consistent. For example, one of the most prominent scholars in philosophy, Casper Lippert Rasmussen, defined discrimination as differential treatment plus something else. And this something else is based on being a membership of a socially silent group. That means membership of which structures social interaction across a wide range of different contexts. Like, for example, groups based on religion, race and sexuality. But having green eyes is not considered a real socially silent property. But still, context matters, so discrimination must always be understood within a given social and cultural context. So even having green eyes could be considered a kind of proxy for a protected attribute like race, for example. And what makes discrimination wrongs, for example? There can be a lot of legitimate forms of discrimination, like positive form or affirmative action, that are used to counteract unfair inequalities in the competition for role and position, like, for example, when we prefer females among males for a job application, just to give you an example. But there are other fundamental distinctions in discrimination, because most of the discrimination that goes on right now is indirect. So it does not involve any intention to exclude a group, but does in fact exclude because it leaves individuals and groups worse off than the others. So discrimination affects groups in a disproportionate way. Just to give you an example, when during the pandemic recruiters oblige workers to go to work independently of how they are, like disabled people that can be most affected by the pandemic, just to give an example. Or also, another form of discrimination could be statistical. that it's based on statistical beliefs or information about members of the group discriminated against. So like when, for example, a company failed to hire people because gender can be a reliable predictor of taking parental leave. So they discriminate against women, just to give you another example. So there are many different forms of discrimination. But in this course, a fundamental focus will be placed on what makes the use of algorithm discriminatory. And this is an open question. And just to give you another example, to assess the risk and premium paid for liability insurance, car insurers can use algorithms that do not collect gender information directly, but rely on information concerning brand, type of the car, wherever the insured person has modified the car. So, at the end of the day, men still pay, on average, higher premiums than women. So, they basically use proxy, some data that are included in the training data set that correlate with protected characteristics. So, but even define and classify men as more prone to engage in risk-taking behaviors is a sociocultural construct. So, discrimination is always context-sensitive, and discrimination is always a cross-cultural matter. So, and again, in algorithm discrimination, there's the risk that the million of variables that correlates with target properties and group membership are not really known by developers or users. So they are not really aware of them. And algorithm discrimination can raise doubts about standard distinction between direct, indirect discrimination, because it's mainly a discrimination between groups and not against groups, and in the traditional definition of discrimination. And what matters is that as outcomes, the algorithm discrimination can lead to systematic difference in outcomes across groups. And algorithms may unjustifiably perform better on some groups than in the others. So Algorithmic Fairness aims to uncover, rectify unjustified performance disparities with respect to silent groups. But the question of what it means for an algorithm to be fair is still open. That's why ethics and philosophy can have a word on this matter. Algorithm discrimination can really challenge some of the main assumptions of the ethics of discrimination. And the most important maybe point is that it can also question an approach to discrimination that focuses exclusively on socially silent groups. And just to give you an example, we can have intersectional discrimination with algorithmic decision making. So when multiple forms of discrimination, like sexism, racism, classism, can combine, overlap, interact in complex way. So, and they target people precisely because they do not fit into a conventional sorting of people, into recognized group, into socially silent groups. So, a concrete example, a search engine like Google can return mostly female picture and mostly white on an image search for nurse, and mostly male pictures and mostly white on an image search for doctor. So, algorithmic fairness should not exclusively relate to an equal distribution on outcomes like in hiring, job applicants, job application, but to the question of addressing structural injustice in society that renders some individuals more vulnerable to oppression and targets of misrepresentation. And the takeaway message of the course is that discrimination is not always illegitimate, but it always context sensitive and may be intersectional. So it may have different forms. And analyzing discrimination in the context of algorithmic decision making may bring about important insights into the ethics of discrimination more generally. And this issue should be of interest of a wide range of stakeholders, including HR, policymakers, public administrators, business, NGOs, that are all interested in implementing principles of inclusion, equity, and responsibility in the design, use, and regulation of artificial intelligence. So, and more information is available in the description of this video, including various ways of accessing the entire course. So, thank you for your attention.